Hello, welcome back to the Checkpoint Reach podcast. This is a game and occasional movie news podcast. I'm your host, Luke Eldon, and as ever, I'm joined by my fellow gamers and friends, Sud, Perks, and Matty. How you doing, guys?
What's up?
Good.
Hello. Glad you're all doing well, and thanks for joining me as ever. Looking forward to getting stuck into this week's topics.
Yeah, should be good. Look forward to it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it should be. Before we do get started, though, if you're listening on YouTube, remember to subscribe to our channel for more gaming content each week. Give this video a like and comment below as well, as it'll help the channel to grow. Anyway, let's get started with this week's news and topics. And the first one is the Borderlands Mask of Mayhem teaser trailer that dropped. Gearbox dropped the teaser trailer today, and I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it because I know you're all big Borderlands fans. Has this got you more excited or just a whole lot of nothing?
I don't know. I suppose it depends on your perspective. I guess maybe a little bit of both. I am looking forward to the game getting revealed. I think we've talked before, haven't we, on this podcast about? I think it was a couple of weeks ago we talked about the game potentially being revealed, and now we pretty much know it is going to be revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the teaser image, didn't they?
Yeah, they had the image, and I thought the teaser. I mean, I think me and Perks might slightly differ on this. I quite enjoyed the teaser trailer. I'm not saying it was the greatest thing ever, but I think it was a nice little teaser just to introduce, some of the characters that are going to be in it and stuff like that. It gets people excited, doesn't it, for the proper trailer to come out in a couple of days, whenever it is. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine.
I've never played the game, and the trailer was alright, some decent music, but obviously it doesn't really impact me that much because I don't really know who the characters are. I did mention one character looked like Rihanna, though.
Yeah, that was. I definitely noticed that. I think it's in the first 5-10 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite early on. Yeah,
early ones.
that's interesting.
I mean, look, as far as the teaser goes, I wasn't overly impressed at first viewing, and the sort of two things that stuck out to me were why, with a game like this that's so colourful and vibrant, did they do what was essentially a black and white teaser? And until I watched a breakdown video, which lasted about 15 minutes, I didn't really see much of what was going on in the just over a minute. I think it was a minute and 15 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, on first viewing, didn't really care. And I really do care about Borderlands, so that's not great as far as I'm concerned. But having broke it down a little bit myself, and with the sort of other people that were doing the video, it was it's a lot better when you look deeper into it. But I don't really think that's the point of a teaser. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, Perks. I do slightly agree with you on the whole black and white thing. That was a slightly strange choice, considering Borderlands is usually known for its rich colour palette, but I suppose they just don't want to give too much away, do they, before the main reveal? Maybe that's why they went for the black and white thing. It makes things more obscure. You can't really see characters as well either, can you, in black and white? So it makes it more like, oh, is that a character that's coming into it? Is that a pass? So I think that's the idea they wanted to do. Obviously, with breakdown videos, that people get to the bottom of it pretty quickly. But
I mean, for me, it was just annoying more than anything. Like, you could see there's a lot going on in the just over a minute that they've got, but when you're just watching it play through, you don't really see any of it. You see a lot of things happening, and you're not particularly sure what. Obviously, there's a few sort of old returning characters that stand out straight away. It looks like Mordecai and Brick are both going to be in it.
Yeah.
And others that we'll talk about as well. Claptrap is present on a few occasions, which, God, it had to be. Otherwise, what the hell would they be doing?
We got to look at some of the enemies, didn't we, as well? I mean, a lot of them very familiar. You got like the midgets. You've got the main sort of maniacs. I can't remember what the flying thing's called. Perks, can you remember?
Was it Rack?
Skags, is it?
Skags were the dog
Skags.
ones.
Oh no, and there's the flying.
Yeah, I think they were called Rack, weren't
Racks.
they?
Yeah. So that's obviously familiar things for Borderlands fans. I'm sure there'll be new enemy types as well.
I think with teaser trailers, though, it's usually for hardcore fans, isn't it? Because that's what gets you pumped, the teaser trailer. Like, when I watched it did nothing for me. But if I watch the full trailer of the game with gameplay and stuff, I'm obviously then more likely to be invested in it.
Well, this is my main problem with it in general, is what is the point in doing a teaser trailer and then saying, oh, there's a full trailer coming in 2 days, or whatever it is. That's really confusing to me.
I think
the whole point of a teaser surely is to, maybe have that at an E3 or something like that.
But it gets people talking about it.
Well, they would have been talking about it if they saw gameplay.
But if
as
you
well.
go on YouTube,
I don't
now,
understand
it's
that.
everywhere. Like there's people talking about it. There's people doing breakdowns. It makes the game seem bigger, doesn't it? Because people are all talking about it. It's the only thing people are going to be talking about now, game related probably. So it comes out.
Yeah, but
mainly,
I mean, the point being made is that they're dropping their
Pretty close together.
actual trailer tomorrow at their event, so it's like strange. I think they could have equally released
maybe,
this
like,
teaser when they released
week ago or something.
the teaser image of the
Yeah,
highway sign,
maybe.
and that would have been a good combination. I think give it a week or so to people to pick the bones out of it and let it settle, and then all of a sudden hit you with the trailer. But the timing's probably not great, but I don't think it's going to particularly affect much, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I mean, at the end of the day, it depends how good the trailer looks, doesn't it? The actual trailer, that's, people are going to be, hardcore fans of the game are obviously going to be hyped for the game anyway, no matter what it looks like. But I think the teaser trailers maybe to try and bring in maybe new people or something. But yeah, I think, to be fair, I think that the main thing for me from the trailer, well, it wasn't actually from the trailer itself, it's from when you watch breakdown videos, is that a lot of people speculating that, that this could relate to Tales from the Borderlands, which for me is probably the biggest news. I don't know about you, Perks, out of this.
Yeah, well, like we
Quite
touched
a
on
big news thing.
with the sort of characters, we've seen Vaughn quite prominently in
he's in the trailer.
in the sort of trailer, and the list of others that we'd have there. I mean, Sir Hammerlock's returning, Mad Moxie.
Yep.
It looks like we've got Marcus as well for the munitions and the guns and stuff.
Well, as well, there was the thing Atlas, wasn't there? And
yeah, Atlas Corporation. The sign is there, and that was at the same time as Zero as well, who's one of the old Vault Hunters. It looks like we're going to get 4 new ones, which I think has been teased already. Anyway, we've got an old-looking dude who is apparently going to be the assassin, and there's a robot which kind of looks a bit like Pathfinder from Apex.
Yeah, I noticed that.
More of a hunter type version than a gimmick. And there's a new girl which looks like it could be the Siren. I'm not too sure.
Well, people were saying it
style's
actually.
going
I saw
for.
a breakdown video where people were saying it was a character that had been in Borderlands 2. That could be the Siren. I can't remember the name.
I'm not sure if the Siren thing is a speculation. It's not for sure. I think if it's not a Siren, then it's supposed to be Tiny Tina, all grown up.
Yeah.
And she was the most annoying
she was
character.
I can remember.
Not a fan of Tiny Tina then.
So I'm sure she'll be even more annoying in this
God, yeah.
That's
I mean, she was bad enough when she was younger, let alone how she's going to be portrayed now.
You can list off all the characters you want. The one character that people care about is Loaderbot.
Well,
don't care what anyone else says.
In the breakdown
Only
video, people are
Loaderbot.
speculating that robot character could be Loaderbot. You know, the one that's you know which one I mean, Perks, the one that kind of looks like a Destiny character.
Well,
people are speculating that could actually be Loaderbot.
I guess it
would be interesting.
I know I've just
Loaderbot's going to be in the game. I can't see why he wouldn't be in the game. Loaderbot was like probably the most famous character from Tales of the Borderlands, so it'd be shocking if he wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So
I think he's unlikely to be that character we've just talked about, because that is supposedly one of the new 4 Vault Hunters. So to include him in that manner, I'd probably say isn't going to happen. But he's definitely going to be in the game, whether it's a few cameos or what.
I don't know if you knew this, but I only just recently found out that Tales from the Borderlands is actually canon as well. So there's definitely going to be some connection with it. And considering Tales from the Borderland ended on a cliffhanger as well, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Did you guys enjoy Tales of the Borderland?
Yeah, it's the best Telltale game.
It's great. Probably right up there with
thoroughly recommend that to anyone who hasn't played it and enjoys Borderlands, because it's just such a great game. It's like I said, it's Telltale. It's nothing like Borderlands. If you're expecting it to be a loot and shoot, it's not that. But the story is so unexpectedly entertaining and genuinely funny.
Yeah.
I just don't think I've got that much sort of comical, certainly, enjoyment out of a game since maybe like Portal 2, to be honest.
It
was great. It was great.
Yeah, I genuinely laughed out loud at a lot of things in Tales of the Borderlands, which I don't usually do at anything, to be honest.
A question I've got for you guys is, do you think this is going to be a full-on Borderlands 3 or some sort of spin-off game?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be. yeah, it is going to be proper Borderlands 3. I just am wondering.
That's on the record
add...
now. Sorry, sir. The fans are going to be coming for you with pitchforks if it's not actually Borderlands 3
I know,
now.
well, yeah, and to be honest, that's fair enough, probably, but I think it is going to be a proper Borderlands 3. I do wonder whether they're going to add some sort of like multiplayer mode or something, though. I just get that sense that, yeah, you're going to get the Borderlands 3 co-op, 4-player co-op proper experience, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is some multiplayer component, whether that's a battle royale or normal multiplayer, I don't know, but...
God, I hope not. Sick of battle royales.
I know it's dangerous to go off just a teaser, but I'm quite confident that this is just a full Borderlands release. I'm not gonna be as confident as Sud and go on the record and say it's Borderlands 3, but whether it's called Mask of Mayhem or numbered with a 3, it is going to be a proper game. It's not going to be some spin-off mode of a battle royale or a multiplayer shooter or something. Well, competitive multiplayer shooter anyway. I'm sure there'll still be co-op aspects. But yeah, it's going to be a full release. We've seen all those past and the new characters that they're introducing. It looks like we've got the two probable bad guys, or bad guy and girl at the sort of top of the mask, if you like. They kind of look like they've got a brother and sister vibe going on, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. I mean, that could be the sort of story component that they've revealed within that teaser. I'm sure they'll have a big part to play. So yeah, I'm not worried about it not being a full release.
Just one thing as well, by the way, it's clear that once again they're going to incorporate Handsome Jack into it, like in some form. I mean, there's his mask, isn't there? Anything? He's going to play a big role in it again, I'd imagine, in probably some sort of like ghost form or something, or some strange thing like that.
I do wonder about the mask, though. Obviously, it was there and it was quite prominent, but I'm not sure that's going to be a major thing. I hope it is, because I really enjoyed Handsome Jack as a character. But
do you
it
not
could
think
have just
they'll
been
do
a
some
nod
sort
to
of? Do you not think they'll do some sort of Batman Arkham Knight thing though? Whereas you remember in Batman Arkham Knight where the Joker was like in your head or whatever. Do you think I can see them doing a similar type thing with Handsome Jack maybe in this game? It would make sense. People love Handsome Jack, don't they? And he's, so.
I mean, don't forget, we already had a lot of interaction with him in Borderlands 2 anyway, and then we had the pre-sequel where he was, the main thing in it. So probably not, I would say, if I had to jump down off the fence on that one. I hope he's part of it, like I said. I mean, this could be complete and utter nonsense, but perhaps the brother and the sister, if they turn out to be brother and sister, or main bad guy and main bad girl, could be related to him in some way. Who knows? But there's so much to speculate on. And
I was just going to say one more thing, actually, that I just thought about that maybe we haven't really covered is, because of this trailer and because of, we think the inclusion of maybe, bringing Tales from the Borderlands into it, do you think they're going to actually try and make it more story-focused? Because the first two Borderlands, they had stories, but they were kind of throwaway, weren't they, really? I mean, Borderlands 2 had more of a story than 1, but do you think they're actually, with this one, going to try and make it a proper, maybe more important story, if you get what I mean?
I mean, look, personally, I always enjoyed the narrative in Borderlands.
Yeah.
I know what you're getting at.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't the be-all and end-all of the game, of course, but I'll be honest with you. I think if we see more of what the narrative was in Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, and maybe with a tinge of the Tales from the Borderlands thrown in, that would be a really good thing. But even if they stick to the sort of what they've done in the past without changing that too much, I'm quite okay with that, really.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I'd agree.
I just I want to get Matty's thoughts on if he thinks it will be a full Borderlands 3 release.
Well, I don't want people to attack me with pitchforks, so all I'm going to say is
you'd love it.
Yeah. Come at me. But, I don't know. It's one of them things. I hope it is. I think everyone in the sort of chat, obviously Perks and Sud, really looking forward to the game like me, hopes that this is just the normal Borderlands 3 release. But with it being such a big IP, I just have a really bad feeling that they're going to get greedy and they're going to see the money signs and they're going to try and incorporate some sort of battle royale or some sort of multiplayer mode that they can tack on loot boxes to and just wreck the whole experience. I hope that's not the case. I really do, but it's such a big IP. All I can think of is that the Gearbox sort of bean counters behind the scenes are just sort of rubbing their hands together, thinking of all the ways they can make money off this franchise. And I'd be very, very surprised if it was just Borderlands 3 and nothing else.
I think one more point as well to make about this game is that we haven't really covered is the fact that what does this mean for Gearbox in terms of, because their reputation, since Borderlands 2 has been kind of dragged through the mud. You look at Battleborn, complete failure, absolute disaster for them. Aliens, Colonial Marines, all the controversy they had around that. So since Borderlands 2, their stock has actually gone a lot lower. So this is a very important game for them. This is kind of a make or break game, really, I would say. So be interesting to see what happens with the game, and if it needs to be a success, I think, really for them.
I mean, I think it will be, and we're basing this off a teaser trailer alone, but I'm sort of following on from Matt's point. I do think that there will be maybe not loot boxes in that sense, but there will be some kind of and it makes sense, right? I mean, look, you can customize Vault Hunters any in which way you want. You could include things with the sort of gold keys that were still in the game, the shift key codes and such. So you always have the sort of potential, and they've got the sort of propensity there to include outfits or weapon skins, which they could do in an abundance. They could do crazy things like claptrap outfits or uniforms, or they could, with a universe like this, the world really is their oyster in terms of microtransactions. So yes, I think they'll be there, but I hope they're there in that kind of form rather than in a battle royale / online shooter form.
Yeah. Do we just one question actually, huge lot. I mean, I see. I was thinking, when's the game going to come out? When do you guys think it's going to come out? Because for me, I think it has to come out this year. I think it's probably going to come out maybe end of the year. What do you think?
Yeah, in time for Christmas this year. I'd say.
Maybe October,
November. Yeah.
Feels with the teaser trailer and the full-on trailer, feels like it's going to be the end of this year.
I just think as well.
I always hoped it was going to be next gen, and
I'm with you on that.
It's one of them things. It probably isn't going to be the case now, but it's so far into this generation. It's just got to the point where it's like I'd rather it be next gen.
I think if it was going to be next gen, they'd have just stayed silent. I think the reason they've come out and talked about it is because they're planning to release it this year. And I also think, say if in the trailer they say, "Oh, it's coming out next," in 2020 or 2021, people are going to be pissed because it's like you've waited so long, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, actually, it's not coming out for another 2 years." So I can't see it not coming out this year, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out in a couple of days' time, won't we? Actually, when is it? Is it tomorrow? Well, our time, isn't it? Like very early in the morning.
Yeah, so it's kind of like 2 days before we'll get the main information.
Yeah, so I guess, we'll get more information then, and we'll look forward to that. However, we'll move on to the next topic of the podcast, and that's the Anthem update 1.0.4. This update is just more negativity around Anthem, to be honest. The update is not pleasing players who are noting a dramatic decrease in the quality of the Anthem loot. The update was supposed to boost loot drops for Grandmaster 1 difficulty and Apex creatures, among dozens of other changes. But that's not what they got, is it, Perks? Because as we've been reading this article, it's just more bad press for Anthem.
Right, and it's just the continuing theme that won't seem to go away for the game. I think it's important to stress there, this is pretty much what we have been reading. None of us play this game anymore. We're all moved on and left this behind. So
never played it.
Well, yeah, or never got there in the first place in your instance, which was
I'd
a good
rather play
idea.
checkers, mate.
Well, so would a lot of people based on what we've seen, to be very honest. But I mean, back to the update. This is the second in quick succession that's regarding loot in particular. And whatever they do, it just seems to go wrong. I mean, the Grandmaster, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 loot drops, haven't been successful since the game first came out. They've had 2 shots at addressing it now, and it's still that way. Even if they do get a third time lucky, who actually cares right now? I mean, just to sort of read through a couple of bits that people have noted in this particular update. You're no longer guaranteed to get a masterwork from the boss kills, which gets to the point where it's a bit crap anyway, to be fair, when you've done it enough times. But now you don't even get that, which is something that surely couldn't have been intentional. That must be a bug in the update, because that's taking something that's relatively decent away from people.
What's the point in doing it if you don't get that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, by a point, it wasn't the greatest thing anyway. But hey, I'd rather have it than not. Well, what else was there? I mean, they've added the embers, the masterwork embers and such, into the loot pool now, which is something that people wanted because it helps with crafting. But they seem to be influencing the chances of physical drops, so you're getting way more embers than actual physical gear or weapon items, and that's not what people wanted. They wanted more embers, or the actual availability of them, as well as not in place of. So the loot pool overall just continues to suffer, and from what we read and from what we see, which is the general consensus, is that this is just another miss from BioWare.
How long does this game have left, really? If we're being realistic about it. I mean, they just seem to...
It's terminally ill,
target.
And they're about to unplug the machine.
Yeah. Well, I think I jokingly said off air to you guys that it feels like EA are like purposely sabotaging this game or something, because with Battlefield's new Battle Royale mode coming out, it's as if they're saying, oh, actually, we'll just mess up Anthem and maybe people will move on to Battlefield and forget about Anthem or something. I mean, it's just becoming such a joke, isn't it, for Anthem now? I mean, maybe if this happened once, like it did, you could forgive them. But the fact this is twice, this similar issue has happened now. How could you get it wrong twice? How do you actually get it wrong twice? The same thing. I don't understand how you get it wrong twice. I mean, surely people test these things before they come to the general public. I mean, right? Because that's like a standard practice. So you should do if you're a developer. I don't know. It's an interesting question. How long has Anthem got left? I mean, there's always going to be the hardcore fans, isn't there, of the game? I guess that stick with it for a while, but it might just become one of them sort of like cult games that only a few hardcore people end up playing in the future, and that's, like you said, if EA don't just drop it, which is a possibility as well.
It seems to be going that way. I mean, they didn't hit their March target.
No.
What
did we find out what they actually got to, or did they just say they didn't hit it?
Perks had read something on this.
Yeah, we don't have exact figures, which, let's be very honest, it's no surprise because they're not going to release exact figures because it's going to make them look bad.
Yeah, they need the PR spin on it.
Yeah, there was a report a few days back, and it was produced in a way that made Anthem look like a success. It was basically saying about their 100 million in revenue and how it was BioWare's second fastest selling game ever behind Mass Effect 3, which, when you read a title like that, you think, hey, fair enough, that's doing quite well. But what's important to note is that Mass Effect 3 sold 3.5 million units in its opening period.
Yeah.
And sure, that's a more extensive period of time than just the first month or so. And by virtue of being sort of behind that in terms of second fastest, Anthem has sold less than 3.5 million.
Yeah.
And their target was between 5 and 6 million by the end of March. We know that from what they've said directly.
So it's probably sold around half, maybe just over half of the target, based off that.
What the general sort of thought is with this, if they sold anywhere near 3.5 exactly, then they would have just said similar or same as, or it's done as well as. But the fact that they really did say it's behind Mass Effect 3, we're thinking around 3 million. Generally, that's the number that's floating around the internet. So if they target 5 or 6, even if we go for the bottom number of that, they missed by 2 million. And I mean, to give it some more context, Battlefield 5 sold 7.3 million copies in its opening quarter. I think was.
And Battlefield 5 isn't Battlefield 5 supposed to be apparently not a success?
Well, so EA reported it as that it failed to meet their expectations because they wanted at least 8 million. So they missed their target on that by around 700,000 copies, and it's all relative. I'm sure that the numbers are bigger, but if they failed to meet expectations with a 7.3 million copy game when they wanted 8 million, then what the hell do they think of a roughly 3 million unit game when they expected 5 to 6? It doesn't read very well.
No, it doesn't. And it does make you fear for BioWare's future, doesn't it? Even though we know they teased Dragon Age, which, I think all of us would be excited to see, but you just get the sense, don't you, that game
it's looming, man.
Yeah, I just get the sense that it's like, yeah, Dragon Age, and then in a couple of years, just like, oh, it's been cancelled, BioWare shut down. I can just see it now.
Yeah, that dark cloud's looming over them because, like we've said, nearly every week there's something negative that comes out about Anthem. I mean, how many punches can you take before the ref steps in?
I mean, I know look. EA have said, haven't they, before, like, oh, BioWare can make what they want and all this. It was up to them to make Anthem, and maybe it was slightly, but you just get the sense, why didn't they just focus most of their attention on Dragon Age? And like, why don't they just stick to what they're good at? I'm not saying they couldn't have made this work with more resources or whatever, but why not just stick to what you're good at? Make a new Mass Effect, a proper Mass Effect game, a good Mass Effect, not Andromeda, which
surely
I know we
like
enjoyed.
Anthem,
but
though, is EA pushing it on BioWare? I'd assume.
Yeah, you would think so. Although they're going to deny it, aren't they? They're going to.
Yeah,
say,
I completely agree. You're not going to sit there if you're a BioWare developer and say, "Oh yeah, EA made us make this game."
No, exactly.
They came into our office and said, "Stop making this rubbish Dragon Age and Mass Effect and make us a shoot and loot like Destiny so we can put microtransactions in the game and rinse people's wallets." They're hardly going to come out on record and say that. That's probably if we're speculating, that's exactly what was said. I can just imagine like some David Brent figure just like kicking the door down in the office and just saying, "Right, we need to make Destiny 2.0. When can you make it happen?"
Yeah.
It's just like, well, we were in the middle of making No. Get rid of that. Delete it all now.
I'm your friend, not your boss. Friend first. Let's get this Destiny 2.0 made.
Yeah. But it is disappointing, isn't it? Because I think I know, we're, I suppose, in the minority with Mass Effect Andromeda. We kind of didn't mind it, but in general, it's nowhere near the quality of the original trilogy.
No.
And we would have liked to have seen a proper, and I'd been happy to see a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda that was actually good.
So would I.
But we're probably never going to see that. Well, we might see Mass Effect again, maybe in the future, but it's not going to be Andromeda. And Dragon Age, of course, that we want to, because that's been, the last one was 5 years ago, so we're due a new Dragon Age.
Jeez, has it been 5 years already?
Yeah, over 5 years since Inquisition came out.
Bloody hell.
And even that's in doubt now, isn't it? Really, I know they've announced it, but it's in doubt because of Anthem's, I'm not going to say failure, but it's certainly not succeeded.
No, it failed.
Yeah, EA are going to see it as a failure, aren't they?
Before it came out, it failed when it launched, and it continues to fail now. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. Let's not beat around the bush with this one. Their pre-launch stuff was embarrassing. Their actual launch was one of the worst that we've seen.
God, do you remember trying to play that, Perks?
Well, you couldn't.
Oh,
like, for a period of time anyway, you couldn't.
Sat there with those loading screens, man.
And even since launch, fair enough, the one credit that I will give BioWare in all of this is that they have pushed out updates quickly. But the flip side of that coin is that the updates haven't been good. So, sure, they're working really hard to rectify the game, but
they're making mistakes along the way, though.
Yeah.
I think what they need to do is I say what they need to do. I suppose it's not my decision what BioWare do or what EA do, but I think if it was me, I think what they've got to hope for is that there's some sort of Rainbow Six Siege moment where, that game was sort of only mildly received when it came out. I mean, we played it when it came out, but over time that game's become massive because of the constant support of the game, and I think that's the only thing they can do.
With EA. I think it's too toxic a brand, a publisher. It's just like, look at Star Wars Battlefront 2. That had a similar drop-off rate. People bought it, they were really disappointed with the game, and they never went back. And they still haven't gone back. And even with this, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Wars DLC, no one's gone back anyway. You know what I mean?
It's been well received, though, apparently. All this content for Battlefront. But like you said, it's probably
players
too late.
who played it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's a bit too late now, isn't it? Although it is I think it's in EA Access now, isn't it? So that probably brought a few more players.
The game doesn't even play that badly, to be honest. Battlefront 2.
No, I didn't even mind Battlefront 2. I'm not saying it was great. It played fine. I think it was just all the microtransaction controversy that ruined the game.
Was bad.
And the single player was, let's be honest, the single player was poor as well. The single player was very poor, I thought, in Battlefront 2. I didn't really enjoy it.
I didn't actually mind it.
No, I just thought it was generic, kind of boring. I just didn't think there was anything interesting about it, really. But the multiplayer was fine. So just the microtransactions that ruined it, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with that part. And we'll transition to EA as well for another news topic, and that is EA lays off 350 people, citing the changing world. EA CEO Andrew Wilson delivered the news via the company's official website. He said, "Today we took some important steps as a company to address our challenges and prepare for the opportunities ahead. Of the company's roughly 9,000 employees, 350 people across the company's marketing, publishing and operation teams will lose their jobs. This also includes operations in Japan and Russia, where the company is ramping down our current presence to focus on different ways to serve our players in those markets." Just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. Obviously, some crappy news for those 350 people who lost their job. Do you reckon this coincides with, EA's failure over the last year or so?
Yes and no, isn't it? It's I think
it kind of coincides with AAA publishers in general, really, because I think they're all struggling at the moment, a lot of them anyway. Obviously some of them are still doing well, especially like 2K and things like that, but EA and Activision in particular are struggling at the moment. And obviously when the shareholders aren't getting their dividends and they aren't able to afford their gold Rolex watch for the year, the first thing that they try and do is just sack the people at the bottom of the food chain, just as a sort of cost cutting measure. Obviously we saw it with Activision as well. They had a big job layoff recently, and now we're seeing it with EA. So they'll try and dress it up how they want, but the bottom line behind this is usually we're not making as much money as we want because our games aren't as good as they used to be, or aren't as good as we're hyping up to be them to be, and we'll punish our own employees because as a result of that.
I think also to add to that as well. I think especially big companies like Activision and EA as well, as we've seen with that, like Mike said, with Activision laying off a lot of its staff, they do tend to like to siphon off different parts, don't they, when they're finished? So there could be a lot of teams at EA now that they're kind of like, do you know what? It's not working for us. It's not making money. We'll just siphon it off. And so I wouldn't be surprised if 350 staff that have gone have been from projects that have been cancelled or projects that are no longer necessary. That's usually what happens, isn't it, with these big companies? So it's not a rare thing. Big companies do this quite a lot, like lay off some of their staff after a while. But
it does make me laugh, the wording used though, due to the changing world. I could say that about anything.
Yeah, I know, it's such a generic statement, isn't it? That's just something to make it seem as if that's basically kind of what I said. It's like it's to make it seem like, well, it's not just them, everyone's doing it, sort of thing,
Girlfriend, why didn't you do the dishes today?
Because
the changing world, can't keep up with everything. I'm sorry. It's just such a
the feminazis are gonna have your head for that.
Yeah.
Why is it the girlfriend that's doing the dishes?
No, she asked me.
Doing the dishes,
she asked me.
Oh, she asked you.
I wasn't doing the dishes.
So she asked you why you weren't doing the
dishes. Feminazis can't get me.
All right, so you're safe. So sorry, I misheard you. You're safe now.
Bloody coming after me straight away.
Well, I was just warning you of their impending shots.
Checkpoint reached, respects all feminazis and any other belief.
If you want to do the dishes as a woman or a man, go ahead.
I'm bringing it back. I guess I'd say that this kind of thing, and not doing the dishes, more people getting laid off, is kind of a recurring theme right now, isn't it? I mean, we've had the big layoff with Telltale Games at the end of last year. We've had the Activision Blizzard
came out
thing.
Of nowhere as well, Perks, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was just like one day they woke up and the collapse literally just happened. And then obviously, like I was saying about Activision and Blizzard, that we covered in a lot of detail when that happened, with was it 8%, I think was the figure of its workforce was gone, despite the overall earnings being pretty good. So this is kind of becoming commonplace, and it's a little bit worrying, I guess, for the future, for more and more things like this to happen. And I guess if you work in that industry and you're thinking your position might be a little more precarious these days,
you definitely would be more worried, because like you touched on, Perks, how you said with Battlefield, they sold 7.3 million copies, did you say?
Yeah.
And they were disappointed by that, and obviously it leads into people losing their jobs. Ultimately, it's like, it's out there thinking, wow, that's a lot of copies we've just sold, I'm still potentially going to lose my job.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Sid said before, we're probably talking about projects that have finished here or that are no longer needed, and
Yeah, they could be freelancers and stuff.
yeah, and of the numbers that we have, not just for EA, but for other companies as well, these people could well have seen it coming. It's not like they weren't expecting it. They may have just had their contracts cut a little bit sooner than expected, but coming to the end anyway. And then you've got the other side of it, which is out of absolutely nowhere, and you've got that shock value. I think if you're sort of one of the main players in development teams, you're probably going to be safe, even if you deliver a sort of substandard product, because it's not you that's going to take the hit for it. So it's probably more people on the periphery, if you like, of these companies that are probably a little bit more worried than they were a couple of years ago anyway, with the way things are going.
Yeah, I'd definitely go along with that, and I guess we'll just have to see how the gaming industry evolves in these changing worlds. What were you
Just a
gonna say,
quick
Seb?
point before we move on. It's important to know as well that it is only 4% of the workforce. You know, it's not like they're laying off like half their workforce or something. So just to put it into a bit
Try
of
telling that to
perspective,
the
I suppose.
4%, though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible news. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying that people might think, oh, EA are like losing it, and EA are going to go bankrupt. It's like, from their point of view, 4% is not a massive amount.
It's
But
all
the good
relative,
news
though,
is-
isn't it? If 4% it equates to 350 people in this instance. We're not saying
Yeah.
4% is 2 or 3 people or 10 people or whatever. This is quite a substantial number.
No, it isn't really. Not in a substantial number would be like 15, 20%. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it is awful for the people that have lost their jobs. It doesn't matter if it's one person or 1,000 people. It's terrible.
There's going to be a lot of people coming at you with pitchforks tomorrow when Borderlands isn't Borderlands 3, and then the EA employees that have got laid off hear this podcast. They're all going to be coming after you, mate.
No, because I'm just making out a point that 4%, like people might take from this story, oh, EA are like soon to be going out of business. Like that's not the case at all. It's just
Well, hopefully they are.
well, that's your point of view. I think EA, I wouldn't like to see them go out of business because they make a lot of games, but you know, I think it's just important to note that this isn't going to sort of bankrupt EA or anything like that. It's not.
Well, it's the opposite of bankrupting EA. It gives them more money because they have less people.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, they'll have to pay the severance packages, of course, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just it's more moving funds around, isn't it? I suppose, and moving it to maybe things they think are more valuable. I guess.
Apex Legends.
Well, yeah.
Well, that
I
is
mean,
more
that would
valuable
make
to them
sense.
at the moment.
50 million players.
That's
So,
pretty much all they've got.
from
right
a business point of view, why wouldn't you put your money into that?
Well, on the bright side, that 4% that have got laid off now have more time to do the dishes.
It's true.
Yeah, that's a good.
And then come after Sud with a pitchfork when they're done with them.
Yeah.
No. Well,
Anyway, we'll see if that happens. Probably won't. So we'll move on to the next topic anyway, which is Epic's Games Store won't accept crappy games. CEO of Epic Games, Tim Sweeney, has declared its stance on allowing crappy games onto the platform. In an interview with PC Gamer, he said, reasonably good quality games of any scale, whether small indie games to huge AAA games, make the cut. We'll have a quality standard that doesn't accept crappy games. We'll take everything up to like an R-rated movie or an M-rated game. So that's clearly, I mean, we're reading into that as a dig at Steam.
yeah. Well,
It's a dig at Steam.
yeah.
It's a dig at Steam, but they've already got a crappy game on there because Fortnite's on there.
I was
So
actually
they've
about to
already
make a point,
gone
yeah.
against their own policy.
I was actually going to say is Anthem on their store because I mean they've already kind of renegaded on that, haven't they? If Anthem's on there, but
It's just the
I
wrong
don't believe
wording,
it. I don't
really,
believe
isn't
it
it?
either.
It's
I
the
don't
no, it's the
believe it.
wrong wording. I understand.
So-
Like you go on Steam now, you see so many games that aren't even games. Like they will be completely unfinished asset grabs from other games, like just absolute complete and utter garbage that should never be on Steam. And these are the sort of games that he's alluding to won't be on the store. But I think just saying crappy games is a bit of a sort of general term,
I mean-
because I could describe at least 10 of the AAA games I've played in the last 2 years as crappy games. So it was just a bit of a stupid thing to say, really. But I
I think,
understand where he's coming from.
I think we all understand where he's coming from, but
The
at the end of
shovelware.
the day, I just want to say at the end of the day, we all know there is going to be crappy games in that store at some point. So there will
it's
be.
Subjective as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There will be examples of crappy games, and you know exactly what's going to happen. People are going to post it on Twitter with that quote, him saying no crappy games, and there's going to be a picture of a terrible game.
Well, I'm already going to post that on Twitter, no crappy games, with a picture of Fortnite.
Well,
so
exactly.
That's already started.
But there'll be worse examples. You know there'll be worse examples. And the thing is, they can say what they want about, we don't want crappy games. But look how much money Steam's making off these games. So, you know, at the end of the day, are you telling me they don't want a piece of that pie? I don't believe them. So that's my point of view on it. I think if given the chance, they'd have as many games as they want on there if they can see that it makes them money. Because they only care about money at the end of the day. That's what they all care about.
Yeah. Well, they're already
so they can
making
Steam,
plays,
but...
aren't they, to hamper Steam anyway with exclusivity deals for a year.
I just think it's an easy jibe to make, isn't it? It's what everyone on the internet says. Oh, Steam's got all these crappy games. So if you're Epic, you're going to say that, aren't you? Because it's just an easy win, basically.
Well, just to provide you with a bit of clarity regarding this, it's kind of funny actually, because back in the day, when Steam wasn't sort of just first started, but 4 or 5 years in, when it started to really sort of gain traction and become that sort of number one marketplace for PC gamers were actually annoyed because Steam wasn't letting enough games on. A lot of games, like indie games and stuff like that, weren't passing the verification process and weren't allowed on Steam. And then Steam started to sort of open the floodgates, so to speak, a little bit on what games they let in, and then it got to the point where they just let anything in. So I'm interested to see if the same thing will happen with the Epic Store. It's nice at the start to say we're going to have a really strict verification process and we're going to check every game, we're going to make sure crappy games don't get on the store, and then say if the Epic Game Store does take off and they've got hundreds of games, maybe thousands of games wanting to get on there a week, and they've got to verify every one and make sure it works, and it just becomes too much work, whether they're just going to do exactly the same thing that Steam did and just let everything on there.
I mean, that definitely could happen.
I think, honestly, the time frames are really important with this. I mean, the Epic Game Store's been open for a few months now. 4 months since December? And right now, Epic is in a super strong place as a whole, not just in terms of its game store. So right now, they can say whatever they want because the company's doing so well. But hey, in 2 years or 3 years' time, that might have changed. Maybe their stock isn't so high. We don't know how it's going to be. So maybe it'll get to the point where they think, actually, we're going to need to open up and we're going to need to lessen our standards and make it a little bit less strict to allow more on to make more money. So I guess it's very much a watch this space kind of thing. I think it's really easy to say whilst you're doing so well.
I know one thing they need to do. They need to make sure that you're allowed to leave reviews on games. That's something that they don't have at the moment.
It's so people can't tell you the games are crap.
Pretty much, but that's pretty... crap as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, other than what I've just said, I can't think of a reason why that would be, other than to protect what might possibly be bad reviews on certain titles. But
do we think that they will overtake Steam in years to come?
I mean, anything's possible, isn't it? I mean, Steam's still massive, but its popularity is definitely slowly dwindling. So, and we see recently, don't we, with all these games, like we said, skipping Steam, that, clearly this, I can't remember, can anyone remember what the percentage was that Epic give?
12%.
12%?
Was it 12?
Was that Steam? I thought that Steam was 12%.
Steam 30 and...
Yeah, Steam's like 30%, depending on if you hit
that's it,
or something.
Yeah. So Steam take, 30%, Epic only 12.
Epic
I mean,
is 12.
I think you mentioned this, Luke, that is a massive difference. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Why they're getting good deals?
Yeah, I mean, if you
from publishers
/ publisher, why would you ever go for Steam's option when you can?
I suppose
get better on Epic.
Well, I suppose. I mean, I think Bethesda recently announced that their games that come out, soon are going to be on both, aren't they? They're going to be on the Epic Store and Steam Store. So they're kind of
they're big enough though to take that luxury.
Yeah, they can take the hit, can't they, on the Steam stuff anyway, and it's good publicity for them because then people don't moan at them, don't they? Do they, from either side? So
yeah, win-win.
I think a lot of publishers will still be on both because of that reason, but there's definitely going to be some that just go with one or the other, and well, mainly now probably going to go with Epic. So it's definitely a bit of a loss for Steam, but I'm sure Steam will survive. I don't think they. Let's be honest, their user base is absolutely huge and massive on the PC compared to Epic. It's probably, I don't know what it'll be, 80-1, maybe, probably 60-1 in Steam's favor.
I've seen a lot of people actually, players.
I'm sure someone might go across.
Boycott Epic Games. No, I've seen quite a few saying they're boycotting Epic.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Because of their tactics of exclusivity deals. Because there was the Outer Worlds. I find that quite funny, actually. The Outer Worlds.
I do find that quite ironic.
That's gone to Epic Games, and people are unhappy about that.
I do find this whole thing of like, they're not allowed to sign exclusive deals. Well, no, they are, because it's a private deal between publisher and storefront. I mean, I don't understand why people are moaning about that so much.
I think people were moaning about the Outer Worlds one because on the trailer it had Steam on it.
Yeah, that's bad. I mean,
Steam,
I think
and then they obviously changed their mind.
Well, I definitely agree with that. I think if there was another controversy with it, was it Metro as well?
Metro.
That was a similar thing. I would say in that circumstance, yeah, that is a bit shady because that's misleading. But if they're actually just making a deal and it's not been announced on Steam, I don't have any problem with that because that's just business at the end of the day. That's just how it works. So
it is.
It's an open market.
As a business
person,
you're going to go for what's best for you.
And it's an open market. No, it's not. We don't live in a closed market. So
I mean, from a business perspective, just to offer another angle on it, it's not always better just to go for the sort of cheaper option, if you like, for the 12% rather than Steam's 30%, because you could pay more money initially, but you're reaching a much wider audience. So if your game is actually good, if your product is a high standard, you're going to pay more out in the initial run, in the short term, and open it up to more consumers potentially in the long run. So I guess there's more than one way of looking at it, but in terms of it taking over, it's way too early in its life cycle. Is it going to have the longevity that Steam has? Only time will tell with that, and it's something that I'm looking forward to because it's about time Steam had a genuine competitor, I guess.
They're making aggressive plays as well, aren't they?
They are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's certainly interesting, and it's something that I think we'll all monitor quite closely.
And the thing is, well, we know they're not going to run out of money anytime soon.
No, definitely
Epic are already a rich company anyway, and with Fortnite money that keeps rolling in, they're not going to be easing up. But I would say that just on Pertz's point about, it makes sense to go to Steam as well because, like I said before, their user base is probably at least 50 times higher right now than Epic's. So, it does make sense, doesn't it?
I think from a business point, if you're a smaller dev, go with Epic Games to begin with, though. Because if you get a hit on your hands, you'll get more money. Then you get people on Steam like, I can't wait for that game to come to Steam. And then take it to Steam. You got more money to market it as well as a result.
There's definitely various tactics.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to both, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but this is like it's like a console war, but PC.
It's like it's like a store. It's more of a storefront war, isn't it? A PC storefront war.
Store wars.
Store. Well, and the thing is, in the next few years, more players are going to get involved because Microsoft want to go down this route, don't they? Of pretty much a storefront. I mean, eventually, we've all speculated before. I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, but that Microsoft eventually it'll just be a storefront that you buy games off and play on your PC or play on your phone. I mean, that's what they're going for. So they're going to be involved. You're going to probably have maybe Amazon getting involved in this. Google are clearly getting involved in this. So there's going to be a lot of competitors, that's for sure.
Definitely going to have to watch that space. Anyway, we'll move on to the last topic of the day, which is State of Play, the PlayStation event. Sony revealed details on Iron Man VR, Days Gone, and a bunch more games during its first State of Play stream. Matty, you were able to watch this event. What did you think?
Well, I watched about 40% of it and then fell asleep, to be honest. I was absolutely appalled. It's just, to be honest, I don't know what Sony are doing at the moment. They just seem like they're in hibernation. They're not going to E3, and then obviously this sort of State of Play. Half came out of the blue, really. Not a lot of people were expecting it or anything like that. And it was just full of just tat, to be honest. It was just all double A's and indies, and it was completely packed to the rafters with VR games. And obviously, I've used PSVR. I do quite enjoy it.
Yeah, I've got it too. I think it's all right.
It's one of them things. it's very interesting to me because I honestly believe that next generation Sony are going to use that as their key differentiator between all of the other consoles. It just seems like they're the only ones really out of, especially the console, the big three, who are really trying to push VR and really believe in VR. And I think that's going to be their main sort of focus next generation, to be honest. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with VR next gen, because obviously they'll have more powerful hardware, and I think that's one of the things that's really limiting VR at the moment on the PlayStation 4 is obviously the hardware that it's running on isn't great.
Yeah.
You need a better CPU really to run these games. So yeah, a lot of the games in VR obviously don't look very nice, especially Skyrim. I mean, if anyone's tried to play Skyrim in VR, I mean, I was ill after about 3 minutes of playing the game because it just looked like someone was smearing Vaseline in my eyes every time I tried to move the headset.
When I was playing that, and I thought, who can be bothered playing this game for this many hours? You know, that game is huge, really.
Yeah, but it's one of the things. There's just so many restrictions with VR. It's like, I was reading the other day that maybe Sony have filed a patent for a wireless VR, which is something that no developer of VR has been able to do as of yet. Like all of them need some sort of wire, and I think that's the main thing really that's stopping me really from wanting to play VR. I mean, you try and connect your VR, and it's just there's about 4,000 cables all over the place that you could trip over, and it's just like it's such a barrier to play.
Yeah.
So if they do manage to, successfully make the headset wireless to the point where you can just have it on like your living room table, pick it up, and that's it. You just put the headset on, you're good to go. I think that would be a major factor in making it more mainstream. But
I'd definitely play it more if that was the case.
But I think it's one of those things where this event was really a lot of VR games.
Yeah, I think for me with this event, to be honest with you, I don't really care about the VR stuff. I'm not saying it's, I'm sure some people it's relevant to. I'm sure some people got excited for some of the games, but I'm not that interested in the VR personally. I think for me, I'm just interested in more of the other announcements, and it seems like at this one there wasn't really any others apart from VR games, which is a bit disappointing. But I think I'm interested in seeing where this show goes from here. I mean, was this a one-off, or is this? I imagine it's not a one-off, and they're gonna maybe do this 3 or 4 times a year, like a sort of Nintendo Direct style. Inside Xbox as well, obviously, so Xbox has got one. So it would make sense, wouldn't it, for Sony to have a similar type show where they announce things throughout the year, considering they're not going to E3 as well.
Inside Xbox and State of Play both sent me to sleep. So
yeah,
none of the big console manufacturers, well, actually, Nintendo. To be fair, the Nintendo Directs are usually very good.
Yeah, I do think announcements. I know this one was a bit of a damp squib, but I do think in the future they could have good State of Plays, because we know Sony have a lot more games in general than Microsoft especially, and even Nintendo. So even if it's just to announce their sort of lesser games, sort of that indie games, I think it could be something that's mildly successful. It's not going to replicate E3, of course.
They've just completely fell asleep at the end of the generation, and
yeah,
maybe you can sit there and say, "Oh, they're entitled to do it because of all the success that they've had," and just wait. Once they announce the PS5, all these games, will be announced, and it'll be okay. But it's just like people are still buying PS4s, and people still want content from Sony, and it just seems like they've just give up at the end of the generation. I mean, I know they've got The Last of Us 2, but we've known about that for a long time. And obviously we've got
games coming, haven't they? Ghost
of
Tsushima,
they've got The Last
of Us,
Ghost of Tsushima, and Death Stranding. But I'm not even sure Death Stranding is going to be a PS4 game.
Well, at the very minimum, it's going to be a cross-gen at the very least. I think I can't see that game. If we're talking maybe coming out at the end of next year, PS5 is probably going to come out into next year. It could even be a launch game. So yeah, it'd be interesting. But I do think this State of Play, I think it's got a future. I think they'll. I don't know about you, Matt. I think they'll probably do it. Keep doing it. Maybe do a few more throughout the year. Probably with smaller announcements.
Well, I think Sony really needs to look at the way that they're delivering content really to consumers in terms of like what's coming out, because their E3s have been terrible, and obviously they've. Last E3 was
last year was just.
I mean, I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning to
Terrible.
watch that.
One of the worst E3 press conferences.
It looked as if it was just like me and Perks back in college scraping together a PowerPoint presentation last minute and just throwing it at the sort of lecture and just being like, "Yeah, that's it, that's done."
Yeah,
It's like it was just atrocious.
We got a lot of distinctions for that.
Yeah,
somehow.
that is true. But Sony definitely didn't get a distinction for
Yeah,
the
difference is though.
No.
Difference is, guys, you guys weren't being watched by millions of people.
Hey, it felt like
That's
it
true.
at the time. The pressure was on.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, well, you guys have quite summed it up so far. I must admit, my take on things like Inside Xbox or State of Play, Nintendo Direct, I don't really care much for these smaller type adjacent shows or presentations. I'm not saying the quality can't be good in some of them, like it has been, especially with the Nintendo ones like you mentioned before, but I think overall I don't really care. I'm quite happy to read it in a quick summary whilst I'm having breakfast one morning. I don't really see the need to stay up and see these things live. They're just a bit meh to me.
What I would say though is, even though this one wasn't very good, the State of Play, I do think they do give opportunities to games that maybe in an E3, for example, would get drowned out by bigger games. So, say, like Matty said, the AA games, the indie games. I think it's a good platform for those sort of games to gain an audience. To gain a bit of attention from fans.
Yeah, I mean, personally, that doesn't change my opinion. I don't care, and that's not even because I'm an elitist. I do play some crap games that wouldn't make it onto the Epic Store, but it's things like this. I don't know. They're just not my cup of tea. And I think, as far as VR is concerned, and I've maintained this point of view for as long as I can remember, I love the idea of VR as a on paper. If you gave me that and said, hey, this is going to be a thing in years to come when I was younger, it would have been so exciting. It's unreal, but it's just not delivered in the way I want it to be right now. And until it is, which will be in the next few years rather than just around the corner, I don't really care about that either. So State of Play, not great.
I think it's a cool add-on, VR.
Yeah.
Obviously, when people come round, I'm like, oh, actually, VR. Forgot I've got that. Let's try it. It's a cool experience, but I don't wake up and think I'm going to go downstairs and play some VR.
I just always think that until the technology drastically improves, it's always just going to be something that's for short games or short experiences.
Well,
you're never going to get a long experience.
The technology is already there on PC. Like I said, it's the hardware. Obviously, PlayStation are the only ones that are trying to provide VR to the masses. By far, buying a PlayStation, like a PlayStation Slim and a VR headset, is by far the cheapest way you can experience VR at the moment. So they are trying to make it a mainstream, but it's just that case of the hardware is not quite there at the moment. So obviously, I think next generation, when those hardware improvements have come in for everyone, VR will be more mainstream. I mean, I've played certain games in VR that are absolutely amazing. Survival horror, especially. I mean,
makes sense.
Even with the way VR is now, I think if Perks played Resident Evil in VR, he'd absolutely love it. So it's like there are experiences on there that are absolutely amazing, but it's one of them things. The hardware just isn't quite ready at the moment for it.
Is it ever going to be something though that's going to be used for massive long games? In terms of, are you ever going to really sit there with a VR headset for 8 hours playing a game? That's my point of view on it. Like, it's for, to me, maybe half an hour at a time sort of experiences, because it's just not comfortable enough to have on your head for more than a couple of hours.
Well, don't forget, guys, if you go in your console user manual, you're only supposed to play consoles for an hour or two at a time anyway, before you have a short 15-minute break. So,
True.
Should anybody be playing 8 hours in a row?
This is the thing with VR, though, isn't it? I mean, in years to come, it will be less weighty and less awkward to have on top of your head. It might feel like wearing a pair of glasses rather than having a big sort of brick on your head. So when we get those advancements, VR will appeal to more people as far as I'm concerned. But until it's at the absolute pinnacle of what it can be, I'm not that interested in it.
But can you ever see yourself playing a game like The Witcher in VR, for example, rather than playing with just a controller? It's not going to happen. Why would you want to? Why would anyone want to play a game like that and that scope in VR rather than just with a standard controller?
Depends on the immersion.
I don't get it personally.
Well, that is it. I mean, like Matt said with survival horror, I mean, the immersion with things like that is top of the line now. I mean, in terms of,
it's not going to be for every game.
No, it won't be, because
there's going to be games where it's just
difficult.
like, this is stupid and
like you guys referenced Skyrim already. I mean, that's for different reasons, because it makes you feel sick because of how it's presented. But games like that, yeah, you're not going to want to play in general an 80-hour RPG in VR because it's always going to be better experience with a controller and sit down and immerse yourself that way. But there's nothing wrong, I think, with the idea of the majority of games being available in VR, as long as it's done to the best of its ability rather than just done for the sake of saying, here's a game that supports VR, have this.
I've got a question. Was Microsoft ever involved in doing some VR for the Xbox? Or did that...
They've got
rumored, but it always just seems to die. Yeah, well, HoloLens is... I don't know.
Completely, really.
It's not failed. It's years and years and years and years away from being a mainstream piece of tech. That I don't know why they ever showed that at E3. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
they did that little demonstration.
Why would you show that
at
E3?
At E3, do you remember?
Yeah.
It's like,
it looked cool, but
hey, here's HoloLens. It costs £4 million and it's not going to exist for 10 years. Oh, great. Cheers. Thanks for that. You can play Minecraft on your table if you're Bill Gates.
Do you know what? Actually, I actually think, talking about VR and stuff, and I do think VR's got a place with certain games in the future, but I actually think the HoloLens would be a more impressive use of new tech for gaming than if it. And that's the thing, Mai, isn't it? If it ever becomes available, because I do like the Minecraft thing. To me, look really cool. Like that actually looked like a cool idea. How you have like the maps just flash up and stuff like that. I think that's really cool, but I'd actually prefer that to VR, I think. But I just don't know if it's ever going to be realistic for a long time. So there's no point even really talking about that for another 10 years.
No.
I mean, really, it'll be interesting to see if HoloLens is a VR specific thing anyway. I mean, I think they're looking at the more sort of wider sort of technological market with things like that, aren't they? Rather than just gaming sort of virtual reality.
Yeah,
definitely. Augmented reality, is definitely like one of the big buzzwords when it comes to tech. But I think my main point and the point to take from the State of Play conference, from what I saw personally, was that Sony really, really committed to VR, and I think, like I said, that's going to be their main differentiator next generation, because it does seem like Microsoft have sort of not forgotten about it, but it doesn't seem like something that they care about, and it doesn't really seem like something that Nintendo care about either. So I think it's Sony really that are going to try and make the big plays in that space next generation.
Yeah, maybe. Let's just hope they don't make the same mistake as Xbox and force everyone to buy it with the console.
I guess time will tell with that one, and hopefully not. But anyway, we'll leave it there. Before we go, though, remember to subscribe for more gaming content each week. Give this video a like and comment below with your opinions on the topics that we've covered today. You can also follow Checkpoint Reach Podcasts on social media on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at CheckReachPod. Links will be in the description below. You can also follow us guys on social media if you want. Where can people find you, Sud?
You can find me on Twitter at David10Spud.
Lovely stuff. How about you, Matty?
Instagram and Twitter. I'm Matty Cheatham. I always have to think for some reason.
I know, yeah, it's literally just your name as well. How about you, Perks?
I'm at Corpse or at JG Perks on Twitter and Instagram, but
plug in the at Corpse again, eh?
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
Can you just refer to yourself as at Corpse only, please? Just stop adding JG Perks. No one cares about JG Perks. They only care about Corpse.
No one cared about Corpse either, though. So maybe the double-barreled attack will get them.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully it will. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Leld, LEL3Ds, add a 9 on the end for Instagram. Again, links will be in the description below. So yeah, thanks for joining me as ever, guys. Have a good week, and we'll chat again soon. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.